The multiverse didn't tear. It screamed. Above Manhattan, reality split open like infected flesh, bleeding crimson light across the evening sky. The rift pulsed with energy that made every screen in the city flicker, every phone die, every nerve ending in a 5-mile radius sing with wrongness. People on the streets looked up, pointed, filmed, because in this world, spectacle was currency, and someone would monetize this before the night ended. Then they fell. 6 figures plummeted through the breach, trailing smoke and sparks, crashing into the streets with impacts that shattered asphalt and flipped cars like toys. The ground cracked in spiderweb patterns. Windows exploded outward for 3 blocks. Car alarms screamed in a discordant symphony. In the center of the destruction, Tony Stark pushed himself up from a crater, his armor scorched and sparking. The HUD in his helmet flickered, rebooted, then flooded with error messages. Friday, you there? Static answered. Great, just great. Steve Rogers landed in a roll, shield raised, already assessing threats. His super soldier instincts screamed danger, but the civilians around him weren't running. They were filming. Dozens of phones pointed at him like weapons. Tony, what happened? Where are we? Still New York, Tony said, repulsors charging as he scanned the skyline. But something's wrong. The architecture's different. The tech signatures are... He paused. Friday's completely offline. Whatever brought us here fried every system. Thor crashed down beside them, Stormbreaker crackling with lightning. This realm reeks of false power. I sense no Bifrost, no connection to Asgard. We are severed from home. His eyes narrowed at the gathering crowd. These mortals show no fear. They film our arrival as entertainment. Natasha Romanoff appeared from the shadows, already moving tactically, scanning for exits and threats. We've got incoming, multiple signatures flying fast. Clint Barton took position on a fire escape, arrow knocked. Whatever they are, they're not subtle. Then Bruce Banner stumbled from an alley, still human, clutching his head. Guys, the other guy isn't responding. I can feel him, but it's like he's sedated. Something about this place is dampening him. Tony's sensors finally locked on. We've got 7 contacts inbound, high velocity, energy signatures off the charts. He paused, reading the data. Wait, the news is calling them the 7? The heroes arrived like gods descending to greet mortals. Homelander came first, cape billowing, that practiced smile plastered across his face. Behind him, Queen Maeve, A-Train, Black Noir, Starlight, the Deep, all in costumes that looked like corporate focus groups designed them. They landed in formation, perfectly choreographed for the cameras that were already everywhere. Welcome to our Earth, Homelander's voice boomed with artificial warmth, arms spread wide. His eyes scanned the Avengers with predatory precision, disguised as friendliness. I'm Homelander, leader of the 7, and you folks look like you've had a rough landing. Steve stepped forward, shield lowered but ready. Captain America, we're not from around here. Some kind of dimensional breach brought us to your world. Dimensional breach? Homelander's smile widened, but his eyes remained cold. Wow, that's some sci-fi stuff right there. Well, any heroes are friends of ours. He gestured to his team. This is Queen Maeve, A-Train, Black Noir. We know who you are, Tony interrupted, his HUD finally pulling news feeds from local networks. His voice dropped, filtered through the armor. Vought International's super team, corporate-sponsored heroes. Cute. The temperature dropped. Homelander's smile tightened fractionally. We prefer to think of it as heroes with proper support and resources, unlike some vigilantes. His gaze lingered on Steve's homemade-looking outfit. Vought ensures we can actually help people effectively. Thor's eyes crackled with lightning. You speak of heroism as commerce. Where I come from, such creatures wear different names. Easy, Point Break, Tony muttered. To Homelander, look, we appreciate the welcome wagon, but we need to figure out how we got here and how to get home. We've got our own world to protect. Of course, Homelander's PR smile never wavered. Why don't you come to Vault Tower? We've got the best scientists, the best facilities. We'll help you figure this out. He leaned closer to Steve, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, just loud enough for cameras. Between you and me, Cap, we're all on the same team here, heroes looking out for heroes. Natasha caught Steve's eye, shaking her head fractionally. Every instinct she'd honed in the Red Room screamed that these people were wrong. Homelander's micro-expressions, the way his team positioned themselves, the predatory stillness behind Maeve's eyes. These weren't heroes. These were apex predators in costume, but they were surrounded by civilians, cameras everywhere, and an entire city watching. Steve's jaw tightened. We appreciate the offer, but we'll need to discuss it as a team first. Sure, take your time. Homelander's eyes flashed red for just a microsecond, so brief that only Thor, with his godly perception, caught it. But fair warning, this world can be pretty dangerous for people who don't know the rules. You'll want friends, and Vought takes care of its friends. The threat hung in the air, wrapped in a smile. As the seven flew away in another choreographed departure, Steve watched them go with growing unease. Something's very wrong here. You think? Tony's sarcasm couldn't hide his own concern. Did you see how those people reacted? They weren't grateful we survived. They were excited for the content. Bruce, still struggling with the Hulk's absence, looked at the destruction around them. In our world, this would be a tragedy. Here, I'm watching it trend on social media with entertainment hashtags. Clint climbed down from his perch. So what's the play, Cap? Steve looked at the Vault Tower dominating the skyline, a monument to corporate power dressed as heroism. We find out what kind of world we've landed in, and then we figure out how to get home. And if we don't like what we find? Natasha asked quietly. Steve's expression hardened. Then we do what we always do. We fix it. Above them, the rift had closed, leaving them stranded in a world where heroes were products, lives were ratings, and the American dream had curdled into something toxic. The Avengers had faced gods, aliens, and monsters. They'd never faced heroes who were all three. Vault Tower loomed over the city like a chrome and glass monument to everything money could buy, including heroism. The Avengers stood in the lobby, watching their faces broadcast on every screen. News anchors were already spinning narratives. Dimensional heroes join forces with the Seven. Vought welcomes new soups. Homelander extends hand of friendship. They work fast, Natasha observed, watching herself being described as a mysterious Black Widow variant on CNN. Tony's helmet retracted, and he stared at the massive Vault logo dominating the atrium. This isn't a headquarters, it's a brand cathedral. Ashley Barrett, Vault's director of hero management, approached with a manic smile and a tablet clutched like a lifeline. Her anxiety was palpable, her movements jerky. Welcome to Vault Tower. I'm Ashley, and we're so thrilled to have you here. Homelander specifically requested our best conference room for your meeting. How generous, Steve said neutrally, his instincts screaming louder with every passing second. They were led through corridors lined with promotional posters, merchandise displays, and screens playing Vault Movies trailers. A-Train energy drinks, Queen Maeve action figures, Homelander lunchboxes. Heroism had been commodified, packaged, and sold back to people who needed real protection. Bruce walked close to Tony. I'm still not hulking out. Whatever's in this world, it's suppressing him. I can feel his anger, but It's like there's a wall between us. Keep it together, Banner, Tony muttered. Something tells me we'll need the big guy before this is over. The conference room was excessive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, a table that could seat 30, and enough technology to run a small country. The 7 were already waiting, arranged like a corporate board meeting. Homelander sat at the head, naturally. "Please sit," Homelander gestured magnanimously. "We're all friends here." The Avengers took their seats across from the 7, and the tension was immediate. 2 teams of superpowered beings, separated by a table and vastly different philosophies, sizing each other up. "So," Homelander began, fingers steepled, "let's talk about your situation. Dimensional breach, you said. That's unprecedented. Vought's science division will want to examine you, figure out—" "No one's examining anyone," Steve interrupted firmly. "We're grateful for your hospitality, but we're not test subjects." Homelander's smile froze. A muscle in his jaw twitched. "Of course not. I just meant we could help. Vought has the best resources. We've handled interdimensional threats before," Tony cut in, leaning back with calculated casualness. "The Chitauri invasion, Thanos, the time heist. We know our way around cosmic problems. What we need is access to your world's energy signatures, dimensional data, and a workspace. We'll handle the science ourselves." Queen Maeve spoke up, her voice tired in a way that suggested years of barely contained resignation. "You mentioned Thanos. You've actually fought beings like that?" "Twice," Thor said, Stormbreaker resting across his lap. "And we emerged victorious, though the cost was severe." His eyes fixed on Homelander with unsettling intensity. "Tell me, Homelander, what great threats have you vanquished? What gods have you felled?" The room went cold. A-Train shifted nervously. The Deep looked like he wanted to disappear. Black Noir remained perfectly still. Homelander's smile never wavered, but his eyes, those cold blue eyes, darkened with something dangerous. "We protect America from threats every day. Terrorists, supervillains, the occasional rogue super. It's not about glory. It's about service." "Service to whom?" Natasha asked quietly, her gaze sharp. "I've been reading about Vault International since we arrived. You're not a government organization. You're a publicly traded corporation. Your heroes have approval ratings and merchandise lines. You answer to shareholders." Ashley's tablet nearly slipped from her hands. "We're a private sector solution to what?" Steve leaned forward, and his disappointment was palpable. "In our world, heroes don't have corporate sponsors. We don't sell action figures while people are dying. We serve the people, not profit margins." "Easy for you to say," A-Train shot back defensively. "You're from some perfect dimension where heroism is simple. This is the real world. Heroes need resources. Vought provides them." "At what cost?" Bruce asked quietly. Everyone turned to him. "I've been analyzing your news feeds, your social media. There are patterns, cover-ups, stories that get buried. People who ask too many questions about Vought that suddenly disappear from public discourse." The silence was deafening. Homelander stood slowly, his movement deliberate, predatory. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. You've been in our world for 3 hours, and you think you understand how things work? You think you can judge us?" Thor rose to match him, lightning crackling around his eyes. "I think we understand enough, false hero." "Thor," Steve warned, but his hand was already on his shield. Homelander's eyes began to glow red. "You want to see what a real hero can do? I could laser you in half before you even try it." Tony's voice was cold, and every weapon system in his armor had activated. Repulsors charged, missiles primed, the arc reactor in his chest blazing bright. I've got 17 different ways to put you down before your heat vision gets halfway across this table. Want to test that theory?" The room exploded with tension. Clint's hand moved to his quiver. Natasha's fingers brushed her weapons. Queen Maeve looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. A-Train was vibrating with nervous energy. Then Starlight, the newest member of the Seven, spoke up, her voice cutting through the testosterone. "Stop. Everyone. Just stop." She looked at Homelander with barely disguised revulsion, then at the Avengers. "You want to know the truth about this world? About Vought?" Her hands clenched. "Their right to question us. We're not heroes. We're products. We're weapons. And Homelander." "Starlight," Homelander's voice was soft, deadly. "Be very careful what you say next." "Or what?" she challenged, and something in her had clearly broken free. "You'll do what you always do? Threaten me? Remind me that Vought owns me? That you could kill everyone I love?" The Avengers exchanged glances. This was confirmation of everything their instincts had been screaming. Steve stood slowly, shield in hand. "I think we're done here. Thank you for your hospitality, but we'll find our own way home." "You're not going anywhere," Homelander said flatly, his mask of civility completely dropped. "You land in my city, with your powers and your judgmental attitudes, and you think you can just walk away. Your assets now. Vought assets. You either work with us or what?" Tony's armor was fully weapons hot. "You'll try to stop us. Son, I've fought actual gods. You're just a lab experiment with a god complex." Homelander moved in a blur, and Thor's hand caught his wrist mid-lunge, Stormbreaker crackling with enough lightning to illuminate the entire tower. "You are fast," Thor acknowledged, his grip tightening until Homelander's bones creaked. "But I am the god of thunder, and you, little man, are no god at all." The Seven moved as one, but so did the Avengers. The fight never happened, not because anyone backed down, but because the floor-to-ceiling windows behind the Seven shattered inward, and a rocket-propelled grenade screamed into the conference room. "Down!" Steve threw his shield, the RPG detonating against the vibranium in a bloom of fire that consumed half the room. The explosion hurled bodies across the space, superhuman and merely human alike, crashing into walls and furniture. Through the smoke, figures rappelled down from a helicopter, boots hitting glass-strewn marble with military precision. Not Vought security, not SWAT, something else entirely. The lead figure wore a long coat that had seen too many fights, carried a crowbar like it was an extension of his arm, and had eyes that burned with specific, focused hatred. Behind him, a wiry black man with urban tactical gear, a massive bald man carrying enough firepower to level a building, a Frenchman with wild energy, and a woman whose cold efficiency marked her as former intelligence. "Oi, Homelander!" the lead man bellowed in a thick Cockney accent. "Thought you cunts could have a little team-up without us knowing? Vaught's getting sloppy." Homelander rose from the rubble, dust coating his pristine costume, his face contorted with rage. "Butcher, you picked the wrong fucking day." Billy Butcher's grin was feral. "Every day's the right day to kill you, you cape-wearing psychopath." Then his eyes landed on the Avengers, who were already in defensive formation. Well, the dimensional tourists. Word travels fast in our circles. "Who the hell are you?" Tony demanded, repulsors aimed at both the Seven and these new arrivals. "The boys," the woman answered in a French accent, her weapon trained on Queen Maeve. "We're the people who clean up after these heroes murder civilians." "Lies," Homelander spat. "They're terrorists. Butcher's a wanted criminal who knows exactly what you are," Butcher interrupted, pulling out a tablet. He tossed it across the room. Steve caught it one-handed. "Frenchie, show our new friends what America's greatest hero does when the cameras aren't rolling." The Frenchman pulled up footage on the scattered screens, still functioning in the destroyed room. Video after video. Homelander lasering a protester in half, Queen Maeve standing by while the Deep assaulted someone, A-Train running through a civilian and not stopping, Black Noir executing bound prisoners. "That's doctored," Ashley started, but her voice cracked. "Shut it, you corporate slag," Butcher snapped. "I've got 16 years of evidence. Vaught's been covering up soup crimes since Compound V was invented." "Compound V?" Bruce repeated, his scientific mind already racing. Mother's Milk, the large man, ejected a magazine and slammed a new one home. "The drug that makes soups, Vought injects babies with it, creates their own superheroes, then markets them as natural-born saviors. It's all manufactured." Thor's expression darkened with ancient anger. "You create your champions through alchemical corruption. You twist innocent children into weapons." "It's not corruption." Homelander's voice rose to a shout. "It's evolution. Compound V makes humanity better, stronger. We're the next step." "You're lab rats," Natasha said coldly, her training allowing her to parse truth from manipulation instantly. "Vought doesn't serve people. It creates problems it can then solve. Controlled crisis management." Starlight stepped away from the Seven, toward the Avengers. "They're telling the truth, all of it. I've seen things, done things that Vought covered up. We're not heroes, we're franchises." "Traitor," A-Train blurred forward, and Steve's shield caught him in the chest at 100 miles an hour, the impact echoing like a gunshot. A-Train crashed through 3 walls before stopping. "Enough," Steve commanded, his voice carrying absolute authority. "Everyone stands down. Now." "You think you give orders here?" Homelander's eyes burned red. "This is my city, my world. You're nothing but—" Lightning arced across the room, Thor's power making every hair stand on end, shorting out electronics, crackling with enough voltage to power Manhattan. "You will silence your tongue before I remove it, false one. These people speak of murdered innocents, of corporate evil masquerading as heroism. I will hear their testimony." Queen Maeve laughed, a broken, bitter sound. "You want testimony? I've been covering for him for years. The plane." She looked at Homelander with pure loathing. "Tell them about the plane." Homelander's expression twisted. "Maeve, if you say another word—" "Flight 37, she continued, her voice gaining strength. "Hijacked. We were sent to rescue it. Homelander lasered the controls, doomed everyone aboard, then abandoned 143 people, including children, to die screaming." Tears streamed down her face. "He made me watch, made me complicit, because he couldn't figure out how to land it safely, and he couldn't risk his image being damaged by a failed rescue." The silence was absolute. "You," Steve's voice shook with barely contained fury. "You murdered a plane full of civilians to protect your reputation." "They were already dead," Homelander screamed. "I couldn't carry the plane. I would have looked weak. You don't understand what it's like to be—" Thor moved faster than thought, Stormbreaker's handle smashing into Homelander's face with enough force to send him flying through 6 walls, his trajectory ending somewhere in downtown Manhattan. "I understand exactly what you are," Thor said quietly, lightning dancing around his clenched fists. "You are Loki without the charm, Hela without the power, a small, cruel child given might beyond measure." The remaining 7 looked at each other. Black Noir remained immobile. The Deep was backing toward the exit. A-Train was still embedded in a wall, groaning. Only Maeve stood her ground, looking, simultaneously relieved and terrified. Butcher lowered his crowbar fractionally. "So, you dimensional pricks gonna help us kill these cunts? Or are you gonna be another problem we gotta solve?" Tony's helmet retracted, his face hard. "We don't kill." "Then you're useless," Butcher spat. These fuckers have murdered thousands, raped, tortured, all while Vaught's media machine painted them as gods. You can't reform them. You can't arrest them. The law doesn't touch soups. There's only one solution. There's always another way, Steve insisted, though his conviction wavered as he looked at the evidence, at Maeve's broken expression, at the casual evil the seven represented. Is there? Kimiko, the silent woman, signed, and Frenchie translated. When the system protects monsters, what choice remains? An explosion rocked the tower. Homelander was returning, and he'd be bringing every soup Vault could mobilize. Decision time, Cap, Butcher said, offering his hand. You can play by rules that don't exist in this world, or you can help us burn this corporate nightmare to the ground. Steve looked at his team. Tony's expression was grim. Thor hummed with barely restrained violence. Natasha's eyes were calculating. Bruce clutched his head, still fighting for the Hulk. Clint had an arrow aimed at nothing, waiting for orders. Outside, sirens wailed. News helicopters circled. Vaught's security forces were mobilizing. Homelander's sonic boom announced his approach. We help them, Steve decided, his voice carrying the weight of command. But we do it our way, no executions. We expose Vought, shut them down, save who we can. Butcher's grin was sharp as broken glass. You really think you can save anyone in this world, Cap? It's rotten to the core. Then we cut out the rot, Steve replied, shield raised. Together. The tower shook as Homelander crashed through what remained of the exterior wall, his costume torn, his face bloodied, his eyes burning with psychotic rage. You want to play heroes? He screamed. I'll show you what real power looks like. Thor stepped forward, Stormbreaker singing with lightning. Come then, child, learn what it means to face a true god. The battle for this world's soul had begun. Thor and Homelander collided 300 feet above Vault Tower, and the shockwave shattered windows for 8 blocks. They traded blows with superhuman speed, Homelander's fists moving like bullets, Thor's millennia of combat experience turning every strike into calculated brutality. Lightning arced between them, scorching the air, while Homelander's heat vision carved glowing trenches through steel and stone. I am the strongest there is, Homelander screamed, his voice cracking with desperate need for validation. I'm a god! Thor caught his wrist mid-punch, twisted, and drove his knee into Homelander's ribs with enough force to create a sonic boom. I have fought gods, little man. You are merely a laboratory mistake with delusions of grandeur. He hurled Homelander toward the ground, but not at civilians. Thor's aim was precise, controlled. Even in rage, he protected innocents. Homelander caught himself inches from the pavement, civilians scattering as his heat vision swept across Thor in retaliation. The Asgardian king summoned a wall of lightning that absorbed the blast, then called down a thunderbolt that lit up the Manhattan skyline like a second sun. The bolt caught Homelander square in the chest, electricity coursing through his body, his screams echoing across the city. He crashed into a building under construction, rebar and concrete raining down around him. Inside the destroyed conference room, the real battle was unfolding. A-Train, recovered and enraged, blurred through the space at supersonic speeds, but Steve's tactical mind was already 3 steps ahead. The shield left his hand at the exact angle needed, ricocheting off a support beam, the floor, a piece of debris, before catching A-Train in the legs mid-stride. The speedster's momentum turned into catastrophic physics. He tumbled, cartwheeled, slammed through drywall and support structures, leaving a trail of destruction before stopping in a groaning heap. His speed's impressive, Steve observed, catching his returning shield. But he's undisciplined, no training, just raw power. Black Noir moved like death itself, knives appearing in his hands as he closed on Natasha. She met him head-on, two supreme assassins testing each other with lethal precision. Blade against blade, strike against counter-strike, both operating at the edge of human capability. But Natasha had trained in the Red Room and survived Thanos' army. Black Noir was just a Vought product. She fainted high, went low, her widow's bite crackling as it caught him in the throat. Electricity surged through his body. He stumbled, and her follow-up kick sent him crashing through the remains of the conference table. "Stay down," she advised coldly. "You're outmatched." The Deep made the mistake of trying to help, and Tony hit him with a repulsor blast that sent him through 4 walls and into what remained of an adjacent office. "Did you just try to attack me with sonar?" Tony called out mockingly. "What are you gonna do, make me uncomfortable with fish facts?" Queen Maeve stood frozen, watching her former team get systematically dismantled. Part of her wanted to fight, part of her wanted to help. Most of her just wanted it to be over. Starlight made her choice clear. Her powers flared, but she aimed them at Black Noir as he tried to rise, pinning him down. "I'm done being one of them." Butcher's crew had their own targets. Frenchie was rigging explosives at key structural points, not to kill, but to cripple Vaught's infrastructure. Mother's Milk coordinated civilian evacuations via hacked emergency broadcasts. Kimiko moved like a silent predator, taking down Vought security forces with brutal efficiency. And Butcher himself advanced on Ashley, who was screaming into her phone for backup that wasn't coming fast enough. "Please," Ashley begged, backing against a wall. "I'm just middle management. I didn't know about the plane. I was just doing my job." "Just following orders," Butcher quoted darkly, crowbar resting on his shoulder. "Where have we heard that before?" "Butcher." Steve's voice cut through the chaos. "She's not a combatant. She's a fucking accomplice. How many cover-ups do you think she signed off on? How many NDAs? How many hush payments to families who lost people to Vaught's super cunts?" "That's not our call to make," Steve insisted, positioning himself between Butcher and Ashley. "We expose them. Let the justice system—" "There is no justice system for soups," Butcher roared. "That's what you don't get. Vought owns the courts, the media, the fucking government. The only justice is what we make." An explosion rocked the building, but not from Butcher's charges. Homelander had returned, blasting through the exterior wall in a shower of glass and twisted steel, his costume scorched, his face a mask of blood and rage. Thor followed, lightning trailing from Stormbreaker, his armor dented but his resolve unshaken. "You want to know what I am?" Homelander screamed at the assembled heroes, at Butcher, at everyone who'd ever questioned him. "I'm the future. I'm evolution. You're all just—" Bruce Banner, who'd been struggling in the corner this entire time, finally felt something give. The wall between him and the other guy cracked. Not broke, just cracked. But it was enough. His eyes flashed green. "Will you shut up?" Bruce's voice was strained, his body fighting transformation. "You're not evolution. You're not the future. You're just a bully with a god complex and zero accountability. And I am so tired of bullies." Homelander's heat vision lashed out and stopped cold against Bruce's partially transformed arm, the skin tinted green, muscles expanding, the Hulk's rage finally finding purchase in this dimension. Not possible. Homelander stared in disbelief. "My heat vision cuts through everything." "Everything in your world," Tony corrected, his sensors going crazy as Bruce's energy signature spiked. "You're the biggest fish in a small pond. We're from an ocean." The partial transformation spread, Bruce's frame expanding, clothing tearing, his mind still in control, but the Hulk's strength finally accessible. Not a full change, but enough. A hybrid state forced by this world's dimensional rules. "Enough talking!" Half-Hulk Bruce's voice was deeper, rougher, but still articulate. His hand closed around Homelander's arm, the same arm that had murdered hundreds, terrorized thousands. You want to hurt people? Hurt me. He drove Homelander through the floor below that, through 6 stories of Vault Tower's corporate infrastructure, offices and meeting rooms and propaganda departments, all reduced to rubble. They crashed into the lobby, the sacred temple of Vault's image, and Bruce's fist, backed by the Hulk's rage and his own scientific disgust, hit Homelander with enough force to crack the marble floor in a 15-foot radius. "That's for the plane," Bruce growled. Another punch, equally devastating. "That's for everyone you've murdered." Another. "And that's for being everything wrong with unchecked power." Homelander's nose was broken, several ribs cracked, his perfect face swelling and bruised. For the first time in his life, he was experiencing what he'd inflicted on others: helplessness. "I'll kill you!" Homelander shrieked, heat vision firing wildly. "I'll kill all of you! I'll laser every person in this building!" "No." Clint's voice was calm from his position 30 stories up. "You won't." The arrow left his bow, not explosive, not lethal. A specialized EMP arrow designed for targets like Ultron. It struck Homelander in the chest and discharged, the electromagnetic pulse disrupting the compound V in his system for exactly 8 seconds. 8 seconds where Homelander was just a man. Bruce's fist, still backed by partial Hulk strength, hit him one last time. Homelander went limp. The lobby of Vault Tower fell silent except for distant sirens and the crackle of fires burning throughout the building. The symbol of corporate heroism lay defeated, surrounded by real heroes who'd crossed dimensions to do what this world couldn't: hold the powerful accountable. Butcher stared at the unconscious Homelander, then at the Avengers. "Well, fuck me. Maybe you cunts can make a difference." "We're going to try," Steve said, surveying the damage. "But first we need to know everything. Every crime, every cover-up, every victim. If we're going to burn Vault down, we do it with evidence, not just violence." "Finally," Natasha said, pulling hard drives from destroyed servers. "Someone who speaks my language." Outside, news helicopters captured it all. Homelander, invincible, perfect, America's greatest hero, beaten and bloody on the floor of his own tower. The narrative Vault had spent billions creating crumbled in real time, and the Avengers stood at the center of it, not as conquerors, but as the heroes this world desperately needed. Thor descended from above, Stormbreaker crackling. The false god is defeated. What now, Captain? Steve looked at the boys, at the evidence they'd risked everything to gather, at the broken remains of the Seven, at a world that had forgotten what real heroism looked like. Now, Steve's expression hardened with determination. Now we show them how it's done. The news cycle exploded before the dust settled. Within 30 minutes, every network was broadcasting footage of Homelander's defeat. Social media fractured into warfare, Vault's PR machine scrambling to spin the narrative, while citizen journalists uploaded unfiltered videos of what really happened. The carefully constructed mythology of America's greatest hero shattered in real time. Stan Edgar watched it all from his penthouse office, his expression unchanged as decades of investment burned on every screen. He pressed a button on his desk. Activate Contingency Protocol 7, release the statement, and get me Senator Calhoun. It's time to remind certain people where their campaign funding originates. The machine was already moving to protect itself. In Vault Tower's wreckage, Butcher's crew worked with military efficiency. Frenchie cracked servers, downloading evidence faster than Vault's remote wipes could delete it. Mother's Milk coordinated with journalists who'd spent years waiting for this moment. Real journalists, not the ones on Vault's payroll. Kimiko systematically destroyed every piece of Compound Phi she could find, her silent rage given productive outlet. We've got files on everything, Frenchie called out, his laptop screen scrolling through horrors. Flight 37, the Compound V trials that killed children, the superhuman trafficking rings, the political blackmail. Mon Dieu, it goes back 40 years. Tony interfaced directly with their systems, his armor's AI reconstructing deleted data. They've got senators, judges, entire police departments on the payroll. This isn't just corporate corruption. It's a shadow government built on superhuman supremacy. Sounds familiar, Natasha observed, securing physical files from Ashley's abandoned office. Hydra did the same thing. Infiltrate, corrupt, control. Only difference is the branding. Steve stood over Homelander's unconscious form, zip ties reinforced with vibranium threading, keeping the soup contained. How long until he wakes up? EMP only disrupted his compound Vi temporarily, Clint answered, bow still trained on their prisoner. Maybe an hour before he's back to full power. We need a real containment solution. Or we just fucking end him now, Butcher said coldly, loading a round into his pistol. One bullet through his skull while he's down. Problem solved. No. Steve's tone brooked no argument. He murdered a plane full of people, Cap. How many more will die if he wakes up? Then we make sure he doesn't get the chance to hurt anyone else, but we don't execute prisoners. That's where we draw the line, or we're no better than them. Butcher's laugh was bitter. You self-righteous prick. You're in my world now, playing by my rules. Thor's hand landed on Butcher's shoulder, not threatening but firm. The captain's conviction may seem naive to you. I once thought similarly of my father's mercy toward our enemies. His eyes darkened with memory. But I learned that the moment we abandon our principles because the enemy is monstrous, we surrender what made us worth following in the first place. Pretty speech, Butcher muttered, but he lowered the gun. But when he breaks free and lasers a school full of kids, that's on you. We'll deal with that, Bruce said, his voice still carrying the Hulk's resonance, though his transformation had partially receded. But right now we have a bigger problem. Look. He pointed to the screens showing live news coverage. Vaught's narrative was already shifting. Dimensional terrorists attack American heroes. Homelander injured defending innocent employees. Foreign powers infiltrate Vault Tower. And worse, superhuman reinforcements were mobilizing. The news showed Tech Knight, Stormfront's network reactivating white supremacist soups, and dozens of C-list heroes whose entire income depended on Vaught's infrastructure. They're coming to protect their meal ticket, Natasha assessed. Every soup whose paycheck depends on Vaught's survival will be here within the hour. Let them come, Thor said, lightning crackling around his clenched fists. We will show them the cost of supporting tyranny. We can't fight them all, Steve countered. This isn't about winning battles. It's about winning the war. We need to hit Vought where it actually hurts. The money, Tony said suddenly, his financial genius engaging. Vaught's a publicly traded company. Stock price, investor confidence, market valuation. They care more about quarterly earnings than body counts. We crash their stock. We crash their power. Starlight, who'd been tending to wounded civilians, looked up sharply. The gala, tonight. Vaught's hosting their annual investor summit at the plaza. Every major shareholder, every board member, every politician on their payroll, all in one place. Maeve nodded slowly, a dangerous smile forming. And it's being broadcast live to investors worldwide. If something were to happen there, we expose them on their own stage, Steve finished. In front of everyone who enables them, make it impossible to spin, impossible to bury. Butcher's grin turned feral. Now you're speaking my fucking language, but we need leverage, something they can't deny, can't discredit, something that makes the whole world see them for what they are. We have that, Frenchie said, pulling up a video file. Security footage from one of Vault's black sites, the place where they test Compound V on subjects. The footage played, children strapped to tables, injections that made them scream, bodies disposed of when the compound didn't take, scientists taking notes like they were observing lab rats instead of human beings. The room fell silent. How many sites? Bruce's voice shook with controlled rage. 12 that we know of, Butcher answered. Operating for decades, thousands of kids processed through the system. Most died. The survivors became soups, broken, traumatized weapons that Vought either recruited or eliminated. Thor's eyes blazed white with lightning. They experiment on children, create suffering for profit. This is beyond corruption. This is evil given corporate form. And it needs to end tonight, Steve said, his tactical mind already formulating the plan. Tony, can you broadcast this footage through every screen at the gala? Override their systems, make it impossible to shut down. Can I hack a corporate network in a few hours, please? I hacked S.H.I.E.L.D.'s helicarriers while fighting a robot army. This is Tuesday. Natasha, Clint, reconnaissance and infiltration. I need to know every security measure, every exit, every potential threat. They nodded, already moving. Thor, you're our deterrent. Anyone tries to shut us down with force, you make sure they reconsider. With pleasure, the god rumbled. Bruce, work with Frenchie. I need that evidence bulletproof, verified, authenticated, impossible to dismiss as fake. On it. Butcher, Steve paused, meeting the man's cynical gaze. You've been fighting this fight longer than us. What am I missing? Butcher studied him for a long moment, then spoke with uncharacteristic seriousness. Stan Edgar. He's the real power at Vault. Homelander's the face, but Edgar's the brain. He's already 3 moves ahead, already planning how to survive this. You take down Vault, but leave him standing. He'll rebuild it under a different name within a year. Then we make sure he goes down with the ship, Steve decided. But we do it legally. Evidence, exposure, prosecution. You're really committed to this doing things right bollocks, aren't you? It's not bollocks. It's the only way this lasts. You can kill Homelander, Edgar, every soup in the 7. But if you don't change the system that created them, you've changed nothing. The next Homelander will just rise from the ashes. Butcher stared at him, then slowly nodded. All right, Cap. We play it your way. But if this goes sideways, if civilians die because we didn't pull the trigger when we had the chance, then I'll take responsibility, Steve said firmly. But it won't come to that. We've faced worse odds. Have you? Maeve asked quietly. Because in your world you had laws, justice, accountability. Here, soups are above all of that. The system isn't broken. It was built this way intentionally. Steve looked at her, at the exhaustion in her eyes, the years of compromises and buried trauma. Then we burn it down and build something better. That's what heroes do. Heroes, she repeated bitterly. I forgot what that word actually meant. Then let us remind you, Thor said, extending his hand. Stand with us, Maeve. Fight for what you once believed in, before Vault corrupted it. She looked at his offered hand for a long moment. Then slowly she took it. One condition, she said. When this is over, when Vault falls, every soup who participated in their crimes faces justice, including me. I've done things. Her voice cracked. I've stood by while terrible things happened. I deserve to face consequences. You will, Steve promised, but you'll also get the chance to make it right. That's more than Homelander ever offered anyone. An alarm blared. Security feeds showed Vogt's reinforcements arriving, 20 soups, armed security forces, and news helicopters creating a no-fly zone. "Time to move," Butcher called out. "They've got us surrounded." Tony's helmet snapped closed. Then we give them something to remember. Friday, play Ride of the Valkyries. "Sir, your audio system is still offline from the EMP. "Then hum it, would you?" Thor laughed, a booming, genuine sound that echoed through the ruined tower. "I like you, Metal Man. You face death with humor." "Only way to face it," Tony replied. "Now let's show these corporate supervillains what real heroes look like." The Avengers assembled at the tower's entrance, battered but unbroken, standing against an army funded by corporate profits and enabled by systemic corruption. And behind them, Butcher's crew prepared to broadcast the truth that Vought had spent billions to bury. The real battle was just beginning. The lobby of Vought Tower had become a war zone of ideology. 20 soups loyal to Vought's payroll hovered outside, Tech Knight in his armor, Gunpowder with his weapons, Blue Hawk, Termite, and a dozen others whose powers ranged from dangerous to absurd. They weren't the Seven, but they were desperate. Careers, income, and identities all tied to Vought's survival. "Stand down," Tech Knight's amplified voice echoed through the shattered lobby. "You're under citizen's arrest for assault on American heroes." Tony's laugh crackled through external speakers. "Did he just try to citizen's arrest us?" "That's adorable. Friday, did you catch that?" "Oh wait, you're still rebooting." "They're not leaving," Natasha observed, watching tactical positions through the scope of an acquired rifle. "They'll rush us soon. Overwhelming numbers. Hope we can't handle them all at once." "They're not wrong," Clint added, counting targets. 20 against 6, and we're in a damaged building with civilians still evacuating. Bad tactical position. Steve's mind raced through scenarios, each one calculating casualties, collateral damage, acceptable risks. "We can't fight them here. Too many innocents. Too much exposure." "So we run?" Butcher scoffed. "Show weakness to every soup watching this on TV?" "No," Steve corrected. "We lead them away from civilians and into a controlled environment." He turned to Mother's Milk. "You said you've been tracking Vought facilities for years. What's close, abandoned, and structurally sound enough for a super-powered brawl?" "The Sage Grove Center," Mother's Milk answered immediately. 3 miles north, old psychiatric hospital Vought used for Compound V experiments. They shut it down 6 months ago after Stormfront's Nazi past went public. Bad optics keeping a facility that shared architectural DNA with Mengelé's lab. "Perfect," Steve decided. "Thor, make us an exit. Loud, obvious, impossible to miss." Thor grinned savagely, spun Stormbreaker, and called down a lightning bolt that vaporized the north wall of Vought Tower. The explosion was visible from Queens, the thunder rattling windows across Manhattan. "Follow us if you dare," Thor bellowed to the assembled soups, his voice carrying across the city. Then he took flight, trailing lightning like a comet. The Avengers moved as one, Tony's armor carrying Bruce, Steve's enhanced speed keeping pace, Natasha and Clint on a commandeered motorcycle. They raced through Manhattan streets while news helicopters tracked their every move. Behind them, Vought's soups followed like hunting dogs, scenting blood. "They're taking the bait," Clint confirmed through comms. "All 20 plus news crews. Stark, tell me you're recording this." "Every angle," Tony replied. "When we're done, Vought's stock price will need scientific notation to express how far it's fallen." They reached Sage Grove in minutes, a sprawling complex of buildings that reeked of institutional horror even from the outside. Graffiti-covered walls, windows were broken, and the chain-link fence had been cut by urban explorers and homeless populations seeking shelter. But the bones of the facility were solid, and more importantly, It was empty. "Everyone inside," Steve ordered. "We make our stand in the central courtyard. Open space, no civilians, and structural cover if we need it." The Avengers took positions as their pursuers landed, floated, or ran into the compound. 20 soups, all powered by Compound Phi, all believing they were defending heroism itself. Tech Knight stepped forward, his armor gleaming. "Last chance, surrender, face justice, and we can end this peacefully." "Justice," Steve repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "You want to talk about justice while defending a company that experiments on children? That's unproven propaganda." "Is it?" Bruce stepped forward, still carrying the Hulk's partial transformation. "Because we've got the files, the videos, the testimony of survivors. Vought created you, Tech Knight. They injected you with Compound V when you were 3 years old. Do you even remember consenting?" Tech Knight's certainty faltered. My parents consented. It was to save my life." "From a disease Vought probably gave you," Tony interjected, his sensors analyzing the compound. "It's a classic mafia move. Create the problem, sell the solution. Your parents paid Vought $2 million for that injection. What do you think happened to kids whose parents couldn't afford it?" "They died," Starlight answered, having followed the group. She addressed her former colleagues, people she'd worked with, competed against, pretended to befriend. "I've seen the records. Thousands of children died in Compound Phi trials. The survivors were the lucky ones, and look what they did to us. Turned us into performing monkeys for shareholders." "She's one of them," Blue Hawk snarled. "She betrayed the Seven." "The Seven are finished," Maeve declared, landing beside Starlight. Two of Vaught's most profitable heroes, standing against everything they'd once represented. "Homelander murdered innocent people. We covered it up. How many crimes do we ignore before we're complicit?" Gunpowder raised his weapon, hands shaking. "You're destroying everything we built." "You built nothing," Natasha said coldly. "Vought built you, programmed you, sold you. Your products that gained sentience and mistook market value for self-worth." "Enough," Tech Knight's patience snapped. "You self-righteous assholes come to our world, judge us, attack us. We're taking you down." He launched forward, armor's weapons hot, and Thor met him mid-charge. Stormbreaker caught Tech Knight's armored fist, the impact creating a shockwave that cracked pavement. "Your armor is impressive," Thor acknowledged, "but I have fought the Destroyer, Sentinel of Asgard. You are a child wearing his father's costume." Lightning poured from the God of Thunder, overwhelming Tech Knight's electrical systems. The armor seized, joints locking, and Thor hurled him through a building's wall. That was the signal. The battle erupted. Blue Hawk rushed Steve with enhanced speed, only to meet vibranium shield that had weathered Thanos' blade. The impact stunned him, and Steve's follow-up strikes were surgical. Pressure points, joint locks, techniques refined through decades of combat. "You're fast," Steve observed, avoiding another charge. "But speed without discipline is just flailing." Gunpowder opened fire on Tony. Conventional weapons, high caliber, impressive rate of fire. Tony's armor absorbed the impacts without strain. "Really? Bullets? I fought in Afghanistan, buddy. I've been shot by better-armed insurgents." His repulsors fired, precise and overwhelming. Gunpowder's weapons melted in his hands, and a follow-up blast sent him crashing into an abandoned ambulance. Termite, a soup who could shrink, tried his signature move, shrinking down and attacking from inside. He aimed for Tony's armor, seeking vulnerable joints. "Friday, active countermeasures," Tony commanded. "Sir, I'm still at 70% functionality." "Then give me 70%. The armor flooded its internal systems with electricity. Termite caught mid-infiltration, fried instantly. Not lethal, Tony had calibrated for incapacitation, but effective. Note to self, Tony muttered. Add anti-infiltration protocols. Can't believe that almost worked. 6 soups converged on Bruce, a tactical error born of desperation. They saw him as the weakest link, the one still struggling with his transformation. They were catastrophically wrong. You know what? Bruce's voice dropped an octave as green spread across his skin. I've been holding back because I didn't want to hurt anyone. But you people, you enable child experimentation. You profit from suffering. You are the monsters. The Hulk surged forward, not fully, but enough. Enough strength to grab 2 soups by their heads and slam them together like cymbals. Enough durability to shrug off energy blasts that would vaporize steel. Enough rage to make them remember why even Thanos had hesitated before engaging Banner. Hulk hate fake heroes. The roar echoed across Sage Grove. One soup, realizing the mismatch, tried to flee. Clint's arrow caught him in the leg. Not lethal, but immobilizing. Where do you think you're going? We're not done talking. Natasha moved through the chaos like death, wearing human skin. She didn't have super strength or energy projection, just decades of training, brutal efficiency, and intimate knowledge of human anatomy. Every strike hit pressure points, nerve clusters, joints. Every movement was economical, purposeful. A soup with super strength grabbed for her and found himself flipped over her shoulder, his own momentum used against him. Her widow's bite crackling against his temple ensured he stayed down. You rely too much on your powers, she observed to the unconscious. Soup. In the Red Room, we learned that power means nothing without discipline. Thor fought 3 soups simultaneously, one with fire manipulation, one with enhanced strength, one with energy projection. They coordinated their attacks, trying to overwhelm him through teamwork. Thor laughed with genuine delight. Finally, opponents who strategize. Lightning danced between his fingers. But you misunderstand the fundamental difference between us. You were given power by corporate alchemy. I was born to it, trained in it for 1,000 years, tested against universe-ending threats. He moved faster than they could track. Stormbreaker's arc cutting through fire, deflecting energy, and the thunder that followed his strikes literally knocked them off their feet. This is not cruelty, Thor explained as they fell. This is education. Within 7 minutes, Volt's 20 soups were incapacitated, groaning in pain but alive. The Avengers stood among them, barely winded, proving the fundamental difference between corporate manufactured heroes and warriors forged in actual combat. Steve surveyed the battlefield, then addressed the news helicopter still filming everything. This is what real heroism looks like. Not corporate sponsorships, not marketing campaigns, not covering up crimes for profit margins. We fight for people, not paychecks. His voice carried across every news network, every social media feed, every screen in America. Vought created heroes as products, but heroes aren't made in laboratories. They're forged through sacrifice, defined by principles, and proven through actions. Today you saw the difference. Butcher's voice crackled through comms. Bloody beautiful speech, Cap. Now let's hope it actually matters, because we've got problems. Stan Edgar just went live on every network. You're gonna want to hear this. Tony projected the broadcast holographically. Stan Edgar sat in an office that radiated expensive power, his expression calm, his voice measured and reasonable, the exact opposite of Homelander's manic rage. Ladies and gentlemen, Edgar began, what you've witnessed today is a carefully orchestrated attack on American heroism by foreign agents claiming dimensional origin. While we cannot confirm their story, we can confirm their actions. Assault, destruction of property, and terrorism designed to destabilize Volt International and, by extension, America's superhuman defense infrastructure. He's spinning it, Natasha observed, making us the villains. Homelander has been hospitalized by these attackers, Edgar continued smoothly. But I want to assure our shareholders, our partners, and the American people, Vought will survive. We always do. Because we don't just create heroes. We create hope. And hope cannot be destroyed by violence. The broadcast ended. Steve's jaw tightened. He's good, Bruce admitted. Turned our victory into his martyrdom narrative. Then we hit him where he can't spin the story, Tony said grimly. The gala? Tonight? We show the world evidence that can't be explained away by corporate doublespeak. Assuming we live that long, Clint added, pointing at the sky. More soups were coming, dozens of them, mobilized by Vaught's emergency protocols. The first wave had been a test. This would be war. How many fights can we win before we lose the war? Maeve asked quietly. Steve looked at his team, at Butcher's crew coordinating with them, at former Vought heroes who'd chosen conscience over comfort. As many as it takes, he answered, because that's what heroes do. The Plaza Hotel glittered like a monument to everything wrong with power. Vaught's annual investor summit transformed the historic building into a temple of capitalism, worshipping at the altar of superhuman commodification. Limousines lined the streets, depositing billionaires in tuxedos and politicians in borrowed integrity. Inside, champagne flowed, servers circulated with hors d'oeuvres that cost more than most Americans made in a week. And everyone pretended the smoking crater that used to be Vought Tower didn't exist 3 miles south. Stan Edgar worked the room like a surgeon. Precise, efficient, removing any doubt about Vaught's stability with carefully calibrated reassurances. His smile never reached his eyes, but it didn't need to. These people didn't care about sincerity. They cared about quarterly returns. The dimensional terrorists will be apprehended, Edgar assured Senator Calhoun, whose campaign Vought had funded for 16 years. The Justice Department is already preparing charges: terrorism, destruction of property, conspiracy. And Homelander? Calhoun asked nervously. The footage of him losing was taken out of context by hostile media, Edgar replied smoothly. Homelander was protecting civilians from overwhelming force. He's recovering now and will address the nation tomorrow about the unprovoked attack on American heroes. The lie was so polished it could cut diamond. 3 blocks away in an abandoned apartment building, the Avengers prepared for infiltration. Natasha adjusted her evening gown, stolen from a nearby boutique and altered with hidden weapon compartments. Clint wore a server's uniform, his bow disassembled in a catering cart. Tony had fabricated a miniaturized version of his armor that fit under formal wear, the arc reactor concealed beneath his shirt. Steve stood in a tuxedo that made him deeply uncomfortable, studying the plaza's floor plan. Natasha and I go in as guests. Clint's our inside man in the service areas. Tony, you're in the van with Bruce and Frenchie, ready to broadcast once we have Edgar cornered. Where's Thor? Bruce asked, monitoring energy signatures on scavenged equipment. Providing overwatch, Steve answered. If Vaught's soups try to intervene, he'll be our deterrent. On the plaza's roof, Thor stood like an ancient sentinel, Stormbreaker resting against his shoulder. Lightning played around his form, a warning to anyone monitoring superhuman signatures. Beside him, Starlight and Maeve maintained their own vigil. You know this makes us fugitives, Maeve observed. Everything we've worked for, every dollar earned, every fan who ever looked up to us, gone. Good, Starlight replied. It was all built on lies anyway. At least now when people look at us, they'll see who we really are. And who's that? I'm still figuring it out, Starlight admitted. But it starts with the truth. Inside the plaza's grand ballroom, Edgar took the stage to polite applause. Behind him, screens displayed Vaught's stock price, down 18% but stabilizing, his presence alone calming investor panic. "Ladies and gentlemen," Edgar began, his voice carrying effortless authority. "Today, Vote International faced an unprecedented attack, not just on our physical infrastructure, but on the very concept of American heroism itself." He paused, letting the words sink in. These dimensional terrorists, claiming to be heroes from another world, showed their true nature: violence, destruction, chaos. They attacked Homelander, they destroyed our headquarters, and they've spread propaganda designed to undermine your faith in superhuman protection. Applause rippled through the crowd. Edgar had them. But Vote doesn't fall. We've weathered scandals, market crashes, and public relations nightmares. Why? Because we provide what America needs: heroes you can trust, powers you can predict, and security you can invest in. Backstage, Natasha moved like shadow given human form. She'd bypassed security through a server entrance, neutralized 2 guards with precise strikes to nerve clusters, and was now rigging the plaza's broadcast systems with a device Frenchie had designed. A failsafe that would override every screen, every feed, every broadcast Vought tried to control. Steve entered through the main doors, using a fake ID Tony had fabricated in 20 minutes. The bouncer barely glanced at it, too distracted by news feeds showing Homelander's first public statement since the attack. His face still bruised, but his voice strong with righteous anger. "They call themselves heroes," Homelander's recorded message played on lobby screens. "But they're invaders. They attacked without warning, without mercy, and they'll pay for what they've done to our city." Steve's jaw tightened. The man who'd murdered a plane full of civilians was positioning himself as the victim. Inside the ballroom, Edgar continued his performance. "Some of you have expressed concern about today's events affecting Vote's long-term viability. Let me address that directly." He gestured to the screens behind him, which shifted to display financial projections. "Our insurance will cover physical damages. Our legal team is already filing charges that will see these terrorists imprisoned for life. And our superhuman assets, the Seven and beyond, remain the most powerful force on Earth." Even after Homelander lost to that Thor character, someone shouted from the crowd. The room fell silent. Edgar's smile never wavered. Homelander didn't lose. He strategically retreated to protect civilians from collateral damage. A choice real heroes make, unlike these dimensional sociopaths who fight in populated areas without regard for human life. The lie was breathtaking in its audacity. Steve had been there, had watched Homelander threaten to laser everyone in the building, but Edgar sold it with such conviction that half the room nodded in agreement. "Jesus," Clint muttered through comms, navigating the plaza's service corridors. "This guy could sell ice to Eskimos and make them thank him for it." "He's had practice," Butcher's voice crackled from the van. 30 years covering up soup crimes. He's a professional liar." "Then we give him something he can't lie about," Steve replied, moving through the crowd toward the stage. "Natasha, status?" "Broadcast systems compromised," she answered. "When we're ready, every screen in this building shows what we want. Edgar won't be able to cut the feed. It'll route through 17 different servers simultaneously. He shuts down one, 6 more activate. Good. Bruce, is the footage ready?" "Verified, authenticated, and impossible to dismiss as deepfakes," Bruce confirmed. "We've got metadata, source verification, expert testimony queued up. When this goes live, there's no spinning it." "Tony, what about Vault's response?" "Already jamming their crisis management channels," Tony replied. "They won't be able to coordinate damage control for at least 30 minutes. By then, this will be trending globally." Edgar finished his speech to standing ovation. "So to answer your question directly, invest in Vault, invest in security, Invest in the only organization that can protect America from threats like the ones we faced today. Because when heroes attack heroes, only the strongest survive. Steve reached the front of the crowd. Their eyes met across the room, two men who understood exactly what the other represented. "Mr. Edgar," Steve called out, his voice cutting through applause. "I have a question about protecting America." Security moved immediately, but Edgar raised a hand, stopping them. His expression showed calculated curiosity. "Captain America, I presume? Bold of you to attend our private event." "I'm a concerned citizen," Steve replied, moving toward the stage with practiced confidence. People parted, unsure whether to flee or film. "You talk about protecting America. I'm wondering, does that protection extend to the children Vought experimented on?" The temperature dropped. Edgar's smile tightened fractionally. "I don't know what propaganda you've been fed, but Vought has strict ethical guidelines." "Really?" Natasha's voice echoed through the ballroom as she appeared from backstage, tablet in hand. "Then explain these." Every screen in the plaza switched simultaneously. The financial projections vanished, replaced by footage from Vaught's black sites. Children strapped to medical tables, scientists in hazmat suits injecting Compound V while kids screamed. Bodies being removed in biohazard bags when subjects didn't survive. Ledgers documenting thousands of trials over 40 years. And audio, gut-wrenching audio of children begging for their parents, while Edgar's voice, younger but unmistakable, discussed acceptable mortality rates and cost-benefit analysis of subject acquisition. The ballroom erupted in chaos. Investors recoiled in horror. Senators looked for exits. News crews who'd been invited to document Vaught's resilience instead captured reactions to industrial-scale human experimentation. "This is fabricated," Edgar's composure finally cracked. "This is a sophisticated deepfake designed to... We have the metadata," Bruce's voice boomed through speakers Tony had hacked. "We have the source servers. We have testimony from survivors and former employees. We have everything, Edgar. And now, so does the world." More footage played. Homelander as a child, isolated in a lab, tortured with increasingly horrific tests to measure his limits. Maeve's recruitment, showing how Vought exploited her family's financial desperation. A-Train's Compound V addiction that Vought secretly encouraged to maintain control. And Flight 37, unedited cockpit footage showing Homelander's panic, his rage, and his conscious decision to abandon everyone aboard because saving them might make him look weak. Senator Calhoun vomited. A billionaire investor fainted. Security forces stood paralyzed, unsure who to arrest or what to believe. Edgar stared at the screens, then at Steve, and his expression transformed into something cold and ancient. "You self-righteous fool. You think exposing this changes anything? You think people will choose morality over security?" "I think they deserve the choice," Steve replied. "Something you never gave them." "Choice," Edgar laughed bitterly. "You want to know about choice? I built Vought into a $50 billion empire because people choose safety over freedom. They choose comfortable lies over inconvenient truths. They choose heroes who look good in costume over messy, complicated reality." He gestured at the horrified crowd. "Look at them. By tomorrow, half will convince themselves this is fake. The other half will decide Compound V experimentation was necessary for national security. Humans don't want truth, Captain. They want stories that let them sleep at night." "Maybe," Steve acknowledged, "but they won't get that choice from you anymore." The FBI burst through the doors, real federal agents, not Vaught's paid security. Behind them, journalists who'd spent careers investigating Vought surged in with recording equipment, finally having evidence that would stick. "Stan Edgar," the lead agent announced. You're under arrest for human experimentation, racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder. The list continued for 30 seconds. Edgar's smile returned, cold and knowing. I'll be out by morning. I have lawyers that could defend Satan at the gates of heaven. This changes nothing. Maybe legally, Tony said, his armor materializing around him as he walked into the ballroom. But financially, your stock just dropped 47%. Investors are liquidating. Board members are resigning. Vaught's market cap just evaporated. You destroyed a company, Edgar countered. Congratulations, you just put 12,000 people out of work. No, Steve-O corrected. You did that when you built it on atrocities. As FBI agents led Edgar away, the ballroom remained in chaos. But outside, across America, something was shifting. Social media exploded with the footage. News networks that had spent years protecting Vought faced viewer fury for their complicity. Politicians scrambled to distance themselves from the company they'd supported. The machine was bleeding, maybe dying. Thor landed on the plaza's steps, lightning still crackling around him. The soup reinforcements retreated. They saw the broadcasts. Many are questioning their loyalty. Good, Steve said, exhausted but grimly satisfied. This is just the beginning. Is it, though? Maeve asked, landing beside him with starlight. Edgar's right, he'll probably walk. The powerful always do. Then we make sure he can't rebuild, Natasha said. We stay, we testify, we make sure every crime gets prosecuted. We can't stay, Bruce reminded them gently. We're not from this world. We have to find a way home. Steve looked at the chaos they'd created, the system they'd cracked open, the terrible truth now impossible to ignore. Then, we make sure this world has the tools to finish what we started, he decided. Butcher, your crew, can you keep the pressure on? Make sure this doesn't get buried. Butcher's grin was savage through the comms. You fucking kidding? This is what we've been fighting for. We'll see it through. Good, Steve turned to his team. Because we've got a long night ahead. Edgar's not the only one we need to handle. Homelander, Tony said flatly. He's still out there, still dangerous. And now he's got nothing to lose. As if summoned by his name, every screen in the plaza switched again, but not to Vaught's control. Homelander had hacked the feeds himself, his face filling every display, bruised and furious and utterly psychotic. You think you won? His voice shook with barely contained violence. You took my company, my reputation, my purpose. You showed the world I'm not perfect. His eyes glowed red. So I'll show them what a god looks like when he stops pretending to care. The feed cut. Emergency broadcasts erupted. Homelander was airborne, heading toward a populated area, and he was done pretending to be a hero. Homelander descended on Times Square like a falling star twisted into nightmare. He landed in the center of the intersection, cape billowing, costume torn and bloodied, eyes blazing with crimson fury. Tourists scattered, screaming, but he moved faster, heat vision carving a scorched line across the pavement that cut off their escape. Nobody moves, he commanded, his voice amplified to inhuman volume. Nobody runs. You wanted to see the real me. Here I am. 4,000 people trapped in Times Square, every LED screen showing Homelander's face, every phone camera broadcasting his breakdown to the world. I saved you people, his voice cracked with desperate rage. I protected you. I smiled for your cameras, signed your merchandise, pretended to care about your pathetic lives, and you betrayed me. He grabbed a car, occupied, screaming family inside, and hurled it into a building. The impact was catastrophic. Metal crumpled, glass shattered, the family's screams cut off abruptly. For Captain fucking America, for dimensional tourists who think they understand heroism. Heat vision swept across a billboard, melting it into slag. "I'm the real hero. I'm the one with real power." The Avengers Quinjet, stolen from a vault hangar and rapidly adapted by Tony's genius, screamed across Manhattan at maximum velocity. "ETA 90 seconds, Tony reported, his hands flying across holographic controls. "But he's already killed 6 people, maybe more." "Faster," Steve urged, though he knew they were already pushing the aircraft's limits. Thor stood at the open bay door, lightning dancing around him. "I should fly ahead." "No," Steve interrupted. "He's expecting that. Expecting us to engage him in a straight fight where he can use civilians as shields. We need a different approach." "What approach works against a psychotic god with nothing left to lose?" Clint asked grimly, checking his quiver. He'd spent the last hour preparing specialized arrows, tranquilizers scaled for superhuman metabolism, EMPs stronger than before, even one loaded with compound V inhibitors that Frenchie had synthesized. "We don't fight him," Bruce said quietly, his eyes tinged with green. "We save them. Everyone he's threatening. We make him choose between hurting innocents and losing to us completely." "He'll choose hurting innocents," Maeve said flatly. She'd insisted on coming, knowing Homelander's psychology better than anyone. He doesn't care about them. He never did. They're props in his story. "Then we make sure his story ends tonight," Steve decided. In Times Square, Homelander was escalating. He'd grabbed a young woman, college-aged, frozen with terror, and lifted her by the throat. "You," he pointed at the nearest camera. "Captain America, I know you're watching. You've got 60 seconds to surrender yourself, or I start killing one person every 10 seconds. He tightened his grip. The woman's face purpled. 50 seconds. The Quinjet broke through cloud. Cover, visible on every screen. Homelander's smile widened with manic triumph. "There you are. Took you long enough." He threw the woman aside, carelessly like garbage, and she crashed into a hot dog stand with bone-breaking force. But Steve was already moving. He jumped from the Quinjet at 200 feet, shield angled to absorb impact, landing in a perfect tactical roll that brought him face to face with Homelander. "Let them go," Steve commanded, shield raised. "This is between us." "No," Homelander replied, eyes glowing brighter. "This is between me and everyone who ever doubted me. Everyone who saw those videos and believed I was anything less than perfect." "You murdered children," Steve said flatly. "You're not perfect. You're barely human." Homelander's heat vision fired, but Tony intercepted, repulsors creating an energy shield that absorbed the blast. The suit sparked, systems straining but held. "Wow," Tony called out. "That actually tickled. Must be operating at, 70% power? How much does psychological trauma affect compound V efficiency? We should run tests." "Shut up." Homelander launched himself at Tony. Predictable, emotional, exactly what they wanted. Thor caught him mid-flight, Stormbreaker's handle slamming into Homelander's sternum, hard enough to create a sonic boom. They crashed through a building's facade out the other side, careening through Manhattan airspace in a furious dogfight. "Now!" Steve shouted. The Quinjet deployed, Natasha and Clint moving with practiced precision, dropping medical supplies and establishing perimeter. Bruce, still partially hulked, began pulling civilians from danger with surprising gentleness. Starlight used her powers to illuminate escape routes, guiding panicked crowds away from the conflict zone. "Get to the subway," Natasha directed, her voice cutting through chaos with trained authority. "Underground tunnels. Move quickly. Stay calm." Maeve coordinated with emergency services, firefighters, paramedics, police who'd watched the gala broadcasts and were willing to trust her now. We've got wounded on the northwest corner, multiple casualties near the TKTS booth. I need ambulances." Above them, Thor and Homelander painted the sky with violence. Homelander fought with desperate, sloppy fury, heat vision firing wildly, punches thrown with strength but no technique, every movement screaming his psychological collapse. Thor fought with 1,000 years of discipline, every strike calculated, every dodge purposeful, Stormbreaker singing through the air with deadly precision. "You fight like a child throwing a tantrum," Thor bellowed, blocking heat vision with his axe. Lightning answered his call, arcing from Stormbreaker to engulf Homelander in electrical fury. "You have power but no control, strength but no wisdom." "I don't need wisdom." Homelander broke free, tackling Thor through a water tower. They plummeted, smashing into a rooftop with enough force to crater the structure. "I just need to be stronger." He rained down blows, each one capable of pulverizing concrete. Thor's Asgardian durability absorbed the punishment, but even he had limits. "Tony," Thor called through comms, "could use assistance." "Little busy." Tony was down in Times Square, using his armor to shield civilians from falling debris. A chunk of building the size of a bus threatened to crush a family. His repulsors caught it, straining against the weight. "I've got this," Bruce rumbled, his transformation pushing further. The Hulk was emerging, drawn out by the desperate need to protect innocence. Green skin spread across his body, muscles expanding, eyes glowing with emerald rage. He caught the debris Tony was holding, ripped it in half like paper, and hurled both pieces into an empty parking lot. "Hulk, protect little people!" The roar echoed across Manhattan. On the rooftop, Homelander had Thor pinned, hands wrapped around the god's throat. Heat vision building to lethal intensity, aimed at Thor's eyes. "You know what the difference is between us?" Homelander hissed. "I don't have to pretend anymore. I can just be the monster." "Then you've already lost," Thor gasped, lightning building in his free hand. "Monsters are destroyed. Gods endure." He released the lightning at point-blank range. Homelander's body convulsed, every nerve ending screaming. Compound V temporarily disrupted by electrical interference that made the earlier EMP look gentle. They fell together, two titans crashing through neon signs and advertisements, leaving a trail of destruction that terminated in Times Square's center, right where this nightmare began. Homelander rose shakily, his costume smoking, blood streaming from his nose. Around him, the Avengers assembled, Steve with shield raised, Tony's repulsors charged, Hulk's massive form casting a shadow, Natasha and Clint with weapons trained, Thor descending with Stormbreaker crackling. And behind them, Starlight and Maeve, former teammates who'd finally chosen the right side. "It's over," Steve said firmly. "You've lost everything. Your company, your reputation, your team. Surrender now and..." "And what?" Homelander laughed, the sound breaking into hysteria. "Go to prison, face trial, have the world watch me in chains." His eyes swept across empty Times Square, the civilians successfully evacuated despite his threats. "You saved them, all of them, made me look weak again." "You did that yourself," Maeve said quietly. "You've always been weak. We just stopped pretending you weren't." Homelander's expression twisted through rage, despair, acceptance, and finally, something colder. Calculation. "You're right," he said, his voice suddenly calm. "I can't win. Not here. Not now. Not against all of you." He looked up at the sky, at the news helicopters, at the world watching his defeat. "But I can make sure you don't win either." He launched skyward before anyone could stop him, not toward them, but away, accelerating to supersonic speeds in seconds. "He's running," Tony observed, tracking his trajectory. "Heading. Oh no." "What?" Steve demanded. "He's heading for a populated area, residential. schools. He's going to hurt people where we can't stop him fast enough, Natasha finished grimly. Classic scorched earth. If he's going down, he's taking innocence with him. Then we don't let him go down, Bruce said, the Hulk's intelligence mixing with Banner's strategy. We follow. We stop him. We save everyone he threatens. It's what we do. He's faster than us, Clint pointed out. Even with the Quinjet, he's got a 30-second head start. Thor was already airborne, Stormbreaker pulling him through the sky faster than physics should allow. Then I don't give him 30 seconds, I give him 0. He accelerated, lightning propelling him like a missile, closing the distance between them in moments that defied belief. The God of Thunder was done holding back. Thor caught Homelander 3 miles above Queens, traveling at speeds that turned the air around them into plasma. They collided in a thunderclap that shattered windows across 5 boroughs. Homelander's desperate heat vision met Stormbreaker's lightning in an explosion of elemental fury that painted the night sky in crimson and white. They tumbled through clouds, trading blows that would shatter mountains, falling toward the densely populated neighborhoods below. "You can't save them all," Homelander screamed, his voice raw. "I'll kill everyone you care about, everyone who looks up to you. I'll make you watch." "No," Thor replied with absolute certainty. "You won't." He spun Stormbreaker, calling down every amp of electricity the storm could provide. Lightning answered. Not a bolt, but a cascade, a waterfall of pure energy that engulfed them both. Thor's Asgardian physiology channeled it, weaponized it, while Homelander's compound V-enhanced cells seized and convulsed. They crashed into an empty construction site. Thor had calculated the trajectory perfectly, steering their fall away from occupied buildings. Concrete shattered, steel beams bent, the impact crater glowed with residual electricity. Homelander tried to rise, but his body betrayed him. The sustained electrical assault had disrupted every enhanced cell, temporarily severing the compound V connection that gave him power. For the first time in his life, Homelander was just a man. "No," he whispered, staring at his trembling hands. "No, no, no, my powers. I'm vulnerable," Thor finished, standing over him. "Mortal, human, everything you despised about the people you were supposed to protect." The Quinjet arrived, landing in the crater. Steve emerged first, shield lowered but ready. The rest followed, a united front of heroes who'd crossed dimensions to stop corporate evil masquerading as heroism. "It's over, Homelander," Steve said firmly. "Your powers are temporarily gone. You're surrounded. There's nowhere left to run." Homelander looked at them, these dimensional invaders who destroyed everything he'd built, everything he'd been. Tears streamed down his face, mixing with blood and soot. "I just wanted them to love me," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I saved people. I smiled. I did everything they wanted. Why wasn't it enough?" "Because it was never real," Maeve answered, landing beside Steve. "Real heroism doesn't need applause. Real sacrifice doesn't require cameras. You never understood that. You just wanted worship. And now you'll face justice," Steve added. "Real justice, not Vogt's version." FBI helicopters circled, agents rappelling down with specialized restraints. Power dampeners designed for superhuman containment, technology that had been developed in secret by agencies tired of Vogt's immunity. Homelander didn't resist. He was broken, not physically but psychologically. The world had seen him lose, seen him weak, seen him defeated by heroes who embodied everything he'd pretended to be. As agents secured him, Butcher's voice crackled through comms. "Got something you need to hear, Cap. Stan Edgar's lawyers are already working magic. They're arguing he was just a CEO, that he didn't know about the experiments. They're going to walk him." "Not if we testify," Natasha countered. You're dimensional anomalies, Butcher shot back. Defense will shred your credibility. You've got no official legal standing in this world. Steve's jaw tightened. Butcher was right, they were outsiders here, and America's legal system would use that against them. Then we make sure the evidence stands on its own, Bruce said. We've documented everything, authenticated every file, connected every crime to every executive. We've built a case that doesn't need us. And we've got something else, Tony added, his armor's systems analyzing data streams. Vaught's stock crashed completely. Shareholders are suing. Board members are flipping on each other to avoid prison. Edgar's empire is cannibalizing itself. Financial pressure where legal pressure fails, Natasha observed approvingly. Elegant. It's not enough, Maeve said quietly. It'll take years. Trials, appeals, settlements. Some will go free. Some will rebuild under different names. The system protects power. Then we change the system, Starlight insisted. We testify. We expose every collaborator. We make sure the world knows exactly what Vought was. And when we're gone? Steve asked, voicing the question everyone was avoiding. We can't stay here forever. We have our own world to protect. The Avengers exchanged glances. The truth hung heavy between them. They'd struck a devastating blow, but lasting change required permanent presence. And they were temporary visitors to a world that needed long-term solutions. Then we make sure this world has champions who'll continue the fight, Thor declared. He turned to Starlight and Maeve. You were corrupted by Vaught's poison, but you chose redemption. Will you stand as true heroes when we depart? Starlight looked at Maeve, who looked at the devastation around them, at Homelander being loaded into an armored transport, at a world that had just learned its heroes were manufactured lies. Someone has to, Maeve finally said, and we've got the platform, the powers, and the guilt to make it stick. Then you've got our support, Steve promised. We'll stay as long as we can. Help establish oversight, testify in courts, train whoever's willing to fight for real justice. But eventually, you've got to go home, Butcher finished, approaching from the perimeter. His crew followed. Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kimiko, all exhausted but grimly satisfied. It's all right, Cap. You gave us something we've been fighting for, proof, evidence, a crack in Vaught's armor big enough to drive a tank through. He extended his hand to Steve. We'll take it from here. Been doing this longer than you anyway. Steve clasped his hand firmly. You've been doing this alone, not anymore. You've got allies now, real heroes who'll fight with you instead of pretending everything's fine. Allies, Butcher repeated, tasting the word. Never thought I'd call soups that. But you lot proved there's a difference between power and heroism. He looked at Thor, at the god of thunder who'd demolished Homelander twice. You're still terrifying, but at least you give a shit about civilians. That is the baseline for heroism, Thor replied. Not the ceiling. Sirens filled the air, emergency services flooding the area, news helicopters documenting everything, the world watching as America's superhero mythology died and something more honest tried to be born from its ashes. Tony's systems pinged. Guys, we've got a problem. The dimensional breach that brought us here. I've been tracking similar energy signatures. They're destabilizing. If we don't find a way home soon, we might be stuck here permanently. How long? Steve asked. 72 hours. Maybe less. 3 days to finish what they'd started, to ensure their intervention meant something lasting. Then we make them count, Steve decided. Natasha, Clint, work with Butcher's crew. Document everything. Prepare testimony that'll survive our absence. Tony, Bruce, figure out our exit strategy, but also leave behind technology that can detect Compound V and track superhuman crimes. Thor. I shall ensure Volt's remaining soups understand the consequences of returning to their old ways, Thor said, lightning dancing around his form. A demonstration of divine wrath should suffice. Try not to kill anyone, Steve added. I said wrath, not execution, though the line can be thin. Maeve stepped forward. What about those of us who stay? The soups who want to do better but don't know how? We were trained to be products, not protectors. Steve looked at her, at the exhaustion in her eyes, the guilt weighing on her shoulders, the desperate desire to atone for years of complicity. Then you learn, he said simply. It's not about powers. It's about choices. You choose to stand up when it's easier to look away. You choose to fight for people who can't fight for themselves. You choose sacrifice over comfort. That's what makes a hero. That's simple, Starlight asked skeptically. That's simple, Steve confirmed, and that hard, every single day. Above them, the first rays of dawn broke across Manhattan's skyline. A new day in a world forever changed by dimensional visitors who'd reminded them what heroism actually meant. Homelander was in custody. Stan Edgar was facing prosecution. Vought International was collapsing. The evidence was public and undeniable. But the real battle, the fight to build something better from the ruins, was just beginning. And for the first time in years, people in this world looked at their heroes and demanded truth instead of spectacle. 72 hours passed in a blur of testimony, tactical planning, and preparation. The Avengers worked without sleep, enhanced physiology, and desperate purpose, keeping them functional as they helped dismantle the infrastructure of corporate heroism. Natasha spent 30 hours straight with federal prosecutors, walking them through Vought's criminal network with the precision of someone who'd infiltrated worse. Clint trained a coalition of non-powered law enforcement in tactics for confronting superhuman threats without military escalation. Tony and Bruce worked in a commandeered laboratory, their combined genius producing technology this world desperately needed. Compound V detectors, power dampening fields, armor systems that could level the playing field between humans and soups. They left detailed schematics, manufacturing instructions, and a strongly worded warning about not weaponizing everything immediately. Try to use these defensively, Tony recorded in a message to this world's scientific community. I know that's asking a lot given human nature, but seriously, learn from our mistakes. Ultron, the Sokovia Accords, nuclear weapons, power without wisdom leads to extinction. Thor spent his time establishing what he called divine precedent. He visited every major city where Vought had operated, demonstrating the vast gulf between corporate manufactured soups and actual gods. Not through violence, though several former Vought heroes received educational lessons in humility, but through acts of genuine heroism. He stopped a collapsing building in Detroit, rescued trapped miners in West Virginia, prevented a dam failure in Colorado. Each time he delivered the same message: this is what power should be used for, not profit, not image, service. Steve coordinated with what remained of federal authority, helping establish the Superhuman Accountability Commission, an oversight body designed specifically to prevent another Vought. Representatives from victim advocacy groups, former soups seeking redemption, law enforcement, and civilian oversight. Not perfect, but a foundation. The system failed because it was designed to fail, Steve told the commission during their first session. Vought bought the rules. You need to build new ones they can't purchase. It won't be easy. There will be resistance, corruption attempts, and people who preferred the comfortable lies. But democracy requires vigilance, freedom requires sacrifice, and justice requires courage. His words were broadcast globally, in living rooms across America, in government offices, in corporate boardrooms. People heard what real heroism sounded like. Some embraced it, others rejected it. Most struggled with the uncomfortable space between. On the third day, as sunset painted Manhattan in gold and crimson, the Avengers gathered at the location where they'd first arrived, a dimensional weak point Tony and Bruce had identified through exhaustive analysis. The boys came to see them off. Butcher, Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kimiko, warriors who'd fought alone for so long they'd forgotten what backup felt like. "You really leaving?" Butcher asked, though he already knew the answer. "We have to," Steve replied. "Our world needs us too." "But you've got this. You've got evidence, allies, momentum. Finish what we started." "And if Edgar walks, if Vault rebuilds under a different name, if everything goes back to how it was, then you fight again," Steve said firmly. "And again, and again. That's what heroism is, not winning once but refusing to stop fighting." Butcher looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You're all right, Cap. For a self-righteous dimensional tourist, you're all right." "High praise," Tony quipped, his armor fully assembled. "Try not to blow up any more pharmaceutical companies while we're gone." "No promises," Butcher grinned. Starlight and Maeve stood together, uncomfortable in their roles as this world's potential saviors. "What if we're not enough?" Starlight asked quietly. "What if we fail?" "Then you get back up," Natasha answered. "You improvise, adapt, and continue. Heroism isn't about being enough. It's about trying anyway." "We've spent years being Vaught's puppets," Maeve added. "What makes you think we can suddenly be real heroes?" "The fact that you're asking the question," Steve replied. "Real heroes doubt themselves. They worry about failure. They understand the weight of responsibility. It's the false ones, like Homelander, who never questioned if they deserved their power." Thor placed a hand on each of their shoulders. "You have within you the spark of true heroism. I have seen it. Nurture it, let it grow, and know that across dimensions, we believe in your ability to become what this world needs." Bruce, partially transformed to maintain the Hulk's strength, knelt to speak with Kimiko at eye level. She signed rapidly, and Frenchie translated. "She says thank you for showing her that monsters can choose to be gentle, that strength can protect instead of destroy." "Hulk, not monster," Bruce replied. The two identities merged in understanding. Hulk just angry, angry at injustice, at bullies, at people who hurt little people. Anger is tool. Tool can build or destroy. We choose build. Kimiko smiled, a rare, genuine expression, and signed again. "She says you're the first truly strong person she's ever met." "Because he knows strength isn't about hitting harder," Clint added. "It's about knowing when not to hit at all." Tony activated the dimensional breach device, a temporary gateway created by combining arc reactor technology with this world's understanding of Compound V's quantum signature. The science was insane, improvised, and probably shouldn't work. But it did, because sometimes genius and desperation combined into miracles. Reality tore open, a swirling portal of energy that hummed with the promise of home. "You've got about 90 seconds before this collapses," Tony announced. "And I'm not staying to rebuild it, so everyone who's coming, come now." The Avengers moved toward the portal, but Steve paused at the threshold. He turned back to face the assembled crowd. The boys, former Vault heroes, federal agents, journalists, and countless civilians who'd gathered to witness their departure. "We came here by accident," Steve said, his voice carrying across the crowd. "But what we found was a world that had forgotten what heroism truly means. You'd been sold a lie that heroes are born, not made, that power determines worth, that strength absolves responsibility." He looked at each face in the crowd. "But we've seen something else these past 3 days. We've seen people without power stand up to corrupt systems. We've seen former villains choose redemption. We've seen a broken world begin to heal itself. That's the truth Vought tried to hide. Heroism isn't about abilities, it's about choices. The portal flickered, energy destabilizing. So choose, Steve continued. Every day, choose to be better than you were. Choose to stand up when it's easier to sit down. Choose to fight for people who can't fight for themselves. That's what makes a hero. Not compound phi, not corporate sponsorship. Choice. He raised his shield one final time, a salute to the world they were leaving behind. May you build something worthy of that choice. Thor stepped through the portal first, Stormbreaker blazing. Natasha and Clint followed, shadows disappearing into light. Bruce gave one last nod, the Hulk's strength carrying Banner's compassion. Tony went last, his armor's glow fading into the dimensional breach. Steve stood at the threshold, looking back at Butcher one final time. "Take care of them," Steve said. "We'll try," Butcher replied. "No promises, but we'll fucking try." Steve nodded, satisfied, and stepped through the portal. Reality sealed behind them with a thunderclap that echoed across Manhattan. The dimensional visitors were gone, returned to their own world with their own battles to fight. But their impact remained. That night, across America, people made choices. Some prosecutors refused bribes and filed charges against Vought executives. Some soups surrendered themselves, seeking redemption instead of hiding. Some journalists published stories they'd been sitting on for years, finally brave enough to expose truth. And in a federal holding facility, Homelander sat in a cell designed to contain superhuman threats, his powers slowly returning, but his spirit utterly broken. The world had seen him defeated, seen him weak, seen him for what he truly was. There would be no redemption for him, no comeback, just justice, delayed but finally arriving. In Vought Tower's ruins, Stan Edgar sat in a temporary office, watching his empire crumble on every screen. Shareholders were liquidating, partners were fleeing. The company he'd built through decades of calculated evil was collapsing in days. His phone rang, his lawyers calling with news of testimony, evidence, and charges that even his expensive legal team couldn't dismiss. For the first time in 30 years, Stan Edgar felt something he'd made others feel countless times: helplessness. And in a small apartment in Brooklyn, Starlight and Maeve sat together, watching news coverage of the Avengers' departure. The talking heads were already spinning narratives, some praising the dimensional heroes, others calling them foreign invaders, most still trying to process what had happened. "Think we can actually do this?" Starlight asked. "Be real heroes?" Maeve looked at her hands, hands that had saved lives and stood idle while atrocities occurred. Hands that had one last chance at redemption. "I don't know," she admitted, "but Cap was right about one thing. It's not about being enough. It's about trying anyway." She stood, extending her hand to Starlight. "So let's try." They walked to the window, looking out at a city that had watched its mythology die and was struggling to build something honest from the ruins. It wouldn't be easy. There would be resistance, corruption, and people who wanted the comfortable lies back. But for the first time in years, real heroes stood ready to fight for truth instead of profit. The Avengers had crossed dimensions, dismantled corporate evil, and reminded a broken world what heroism actually meant. Now it was up to this world to prove they'd been listening. The dimensional breach deposited the Avengers back in their own reality with all the grace of a meteor strike. They crashed into the remains of the Sanctum Sanctorum. Wong jumped 3 feet in the air, dropping his tea in shock as 6 heroes materialized in his library. "What? Where have you been?" Wong demanded. "You've been gone for 72 hours. Do you have any idea how many apocalypses almost happened while you were missing?" "Saving another dimension from corporate fascism," Tony replied casually, his armor powering down. You know, Tuesday stuff. We ended up in a world where heroes were manufactured by pharmaceutical companies and sold to the highest bidder, Steve explained, helping Thor to his feet. We had to dismantle their system before we could come home. Of course you did, Wong muttered, already pulling books on dimensional stability. And you didn't think to leave a note? Use the emergency beacon Strange left? Anything. We tried, Bruce said apologetically. Their dimension's physics interfered with our communication tech. Tony and I barely managed to create a stable return portal. Wong sighed the sigh of someone who'd spent decades dealing with heroes who meant well but caused chaos. Fine, debriefing in 1 hour. And someone please tell me you didn't fundamentally alter the timeline of another dimension because that creates ripple effects that... We stopped a superhuman from murdering civilians and exposed systematic child experimentation, Natasha interrupted. If that creates ripple effects, I can live with them. Wong looked at her, then at the rest of the team. Exhausted, battered, but carrying themselves with the satisfaction of mission accomplished. I suppose that's acceptable. Now please leave before you break anything else. As they filed out of the sanctum, the Avengers shared tired smiles. 3 days in another dimension had reminded them why they fought. Not for glory, not for recognition, but because someone had to stand between the powerful and the powerless. Think they'll be all right? Clint asked. That world without us. They'll be better than all right, Steve replied with conviction. We gave them something Vought spent decades suppressing, hope, and the tools to fight for themselves. The rest is up to them. Spoken like someone who's never dealt with corporate lawyers, Tony quipped. But even his cynicism couldn't quite mask the satisfaction in his voice. Thor looked up at the sky, their dimension, their world with its own problems and threats and corrupt systems that needed dismantling. Perhaps we should examine our own world's heroes more closely, he mused. Ensure we have not fallen into similar traps of commodification and false idolatry. One apocalypse at a time, Point Break, Tony replied. Besides, we don't have pharmaceutical companies injecting babies with super soldier serum. That would be crazy. The team exchanged glances. In their world, super soldiers, enhanced individuals, and corporate military interests weren't exactly uncommon either. Maybe Thor's got a point, Steve said slowly. We came back changed by what we saw. Maybe it's time we applied those lessons here. After sleep, Bruce insisted, finally letting the Hulk fully recede. 72 hours of dimensional crisis management. I'm exhausted. Agreed, Natasha added. We saved one world. Ours can wait 12 hours for us to sleep. They dispersed to their separate lives, Avengers who'd crossed dimensions and reminded another reality what heroism truly meant. In that other world, their legacy would inspire or terrify, succeed or fail, ripple forward through time in ways they'd never witness. But they'd given that world a chance, a choice, a reminder that power should serve people, not profit margins. And sometimes that's all heroes can do, plant seeds and hope they grow into something worth harvesting. In a dimension they'd never visit again, those seeds were already taking root. May the Force be with you. More stories await.